Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Finance Committee on September 21st, 2023. And just as a reminder, it is being recorded. We will start with open forum, and I'd actually like to introduce our newest Finance Committee member, Shinji Yu, who's joining us for his first official meeting tonight. Welcome, Shinji.
Thank you.
Shinji.
Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have anything else for open forum? Don't see anything, nothing from the audience. Okay, so our 7:05 agenda item is to review the articles for special town meeting, which is coming up on October 16th. And Article 1 is to approve fiscal year 2024 budget adjustments. Dan, you're taking this.
Sure, I'll walk through these. The first motion here is to appropriate $50,000 for legal services and $165,000 for recycling services. This is raised and appropriate, so this is within the tax base, which is good with operating expenses. The legal is due to basically the firearms bylaw that began last year. We're seeing our monthly legal bills go up each month because of that. And then as soon as October special town meeting happens, we have to jump right into MBTA Communities Grant, which also costs legal expenses from month to month. So we're estimating about a $50,000 increase to that. We did decrease the budget for FY24 based on the trend we're on, and if we had known these were coming out, we would not have done that. So we do need to supplement the budget. For the recycling expenses, I think you all know that we pay a blended value for each ton of recycling, and it's based on the market cost of the recyclables. So we had budgeted $65,000 originally this year. We were trending well up until July when the plastic market crashed. And so now we have to fund this in order to pick up recyclables for the rest of the year. So this is an expense we track monthly, but it's highly variable and highly volatile. So we do want to make sure we have funding in place to continue the program throughout the year. Next up is $950,000 from free cash to the Health Insurance Trust. We did have meetings this year, and essentially the trust is not running well. We've had a lot of high claims. Claims have gone up by over 20% in the past 2 years each year. And so we actually finished FY23 with a deficit of $387,000. We're raising that amount in a recap, but we still need to supplement the Health Insurance Trust by $950,000. Last Monday, the trust didn't meet, and they voted to increase rates by 15% for employees, which is a large increase for them. The previous 5 years, the rates have gone up 4% on average per year. And so we do need to supplement that in order to kick in our share, but we are kicking a larger share than the employees, just to kind of give them some relief. Our broker did recommend a 22% increase, so this is trying to balance the increase and the impact on the employees as well. I'll stop there for any questions on the first couple. Any so far? All right, I'll keep going. Ingrid, I'm sorry.
Now, just what is the employee employer split with health insurance?
For most plans, it's 65-35, which is lower than some surrounding towns. But for the PPO, it's actually 60-40, but we only have a handful of people on that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, next up, we're asking you to decrease the debt service budget by $920,400. This is because these were debt payments that were budgeted for 51 Main, which failed at the annual town meeting at the ballot, and for the J.B. Fletcher Library, which we don't have to borrow this year because we're using the grant. So we need to decrease the budget because this was supposed to be excluded debt, which was supposed to be matched with raised taxes. So we want to just decrease the debt service budget and not have this outstanding. Last up, we're requesting $60,000 from the stormwater retained earnings. During last week's storm, a large sinkhole opened up on East Prescott Street, which needed emergency repairs. So Steve Cronin and Kyle Fox estimated that the amount spent on that was about $60,000. So we just want to replenish that in the budget while we can and make sure we can make it through the year for the rest of the expenses. And
Thanks,
Steve is here if there's any technical questions on that.
Does anyone have any questions on those?
Just one. Sorry, I don't have a raise my hand that I'm finding.
Go ahead, Tom.
Just out of curiosity, when we looked to and we established the health insurance, the self-funded, was there any mechanism to evaluate that at any interval to see if it was still making sense and producing the savings for the town that we anticipated?
Well, the claims really drive the health insurance rates. So even if we weren't self-insured, we'd be getting a huge increase in if we were fully insured, because the health insurance companies would have lost a lot of money on us. So I think it still makes sense that we're partially self-insured. We do have stop loss insurance that helps to offset the claims, but we pay the first $125,000 for any large claim, then the rest is covered by stop loss. But just to put in perspective, before we signed up for the partially self-insured, we had 10 claims that were over 125,000. That has increased to 26 this year. So it's just running very poorly at this point, but the last quarter seemed to be doing slightly better. So there's a ray of hope out there. But regardless, we're going to pay.
I think just to add on to your question, I don't believe there was any sort of formal, we'll look at this in 3 years or any language like that. But the Health Insurance Trust does meet on occasion, several times a year to review. And we're going to be getting monthly updates from now on. Does anyone else have any other questions? Could I get a motion to recommend Article 1?
I propose to approve the motion 1 as it is discussed.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Hari,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes unanimously. Thanks, Dan. Okay, so let's go on to Article 2, which is to appropriate opioid settlement funds. Nicole, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure. So this is a reoccurring article. It was on last year and on again this year. So through the opioid settlement funds, we're going to be getting around 22 to 28 over the next 15 years for the opioid settlement funds. So this is, hopefully I get this right, Dan. So this is so that we can appropriate the money so that at the end of the year from free cash. Is that right?
So it doesn't close into free cash. That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Good job. Does anybody have any questions on that? I don't see anything.
It's in the standard one, right?
We'll be seeing this article for the next 15 years while the settlement pays us annually.
And what's the name of the committee that kind of decides how it gets spent?
We have a group. So it's an opioid settlement task force. So the police department, the fire department, health department, myself, COA, and Neshoba Technical High School and Westford Public Schools has a representative.
Okay. Could I get a motion to recommend if no one has any other questions?
So moved.
I would second.
Okay, all in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Hari,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes as well. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Article 5, reduce amount raised by taxes in fiscal year 2024.
So-
You? Yeah. Oh,
So
right. Yep.
right now, we're looking for a motion to dismiss this article. However, if Article 1 fails, the motion to reduce the debt service by $920,000, we'll need this article apply free cash or other one-time funds to actually balance the budget. So this is just a precaution that we're leaving this article on in case something goes wrong with Article 1. Otherwise, we'd have to call another special town meeting in order to balance the budget. So we're looking for a recommendation to dismiss.
Any questions?
Just one real quick. If the motion is to dismiss, does that cause an issue if we then reopen it for something else? Like, just, is it considered still within the four corners of the warrant? I'm just making sure.
I assume we would just reconsider at town meeting. We would just reconsider our recommendation.
That's how I understand it as well.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be outside and still cause arguments, so.
Okay. So could I get a motion to dismiss Article 5 or recommend dismissal, I guess would be,
So moved.
in a second?
A second.
Thank you. All in
I
favor?
have a logistical question. Let me
Sure.
wrap my hand around here. The town hasn't decided to dismiss this article yet. They will decide at the time of annual town meeting, correct?
Right, we're just recommending dismissal.
The thing is, we're recommending dismissal, and for some odd reason, the town decides to carry forward with an article. It will be against financial recommendations. So
No, because, sorry, I think as I think about it, it would just be an amendment to the motion at that point. So then we would take another position on the amendment.
Oh, you're right.
okay, got it.
Okay, so I think we're done with discussion and ready to vote. So all in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Hari,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes as well. Article 6, rescind authorized and unused debt.
All right, so this is an article that we bring forward every 5 or so years to clean up our debt authorizations. Basically, we're asking a town to rescind the authorization for us to borrow under these votes at town meeting. It just cleans up our books, and really there's no need for any of these to be outstanding anymore. The projects are either all completed or we found alternative ways to fund the projects.
Any questions on that? I don't think so.
Sorry, just a clarifying point for anyone that's following this. This is not real money that we currently have in our accounts that can be applied to other purposes. This is just theoretically, we had the authority to go and take a loan, basically, correct?
That's correct. We did not borrow this money.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tom. So can I get a motion to recommend Article 6?
So moved.
So moved. And second, whichever one you want to grab.
Thanks. All in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Hari,
Aye.
Ingrid? I saw your mouth. I see the hand. Shinji?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So that passes as well. Okay, Article 7, approve Community Preservation Committee recommendations. And we have Ellen Hardy.
Good evening.
Hello, Ellen.
How are you?
Could you explain this article to us, please?
I'd be delighted.
Thank you.
Tonight I'm wearing the hat of the president of the newly created The Drew Farmhouse, Inc. in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a nonprofit charitable organization. This project is about 70 Boston Road, which you may know is the former Coldwell Banker real estate office, right at the intersection of 495 and Boston Road. It came about because 7 years ago, my husband Mike and I purchased 40 Main Street, which is the building that houses Muffins on Main. It's the former Wright and Fletcher store. We bought that building for two reasons. Number one, it's an historic building, and when we saw the for sale sign, We wanted to be very sure it wasn't torn down or changed in any way. It's a fabric of the history of Westford Center. And the second was it has 5 apartments in it, and we knew all the people who live there. They're our neighbors. And we wanted to make sure that they did not end up in a building that was condominiumized, that they could no longer afford to live there. So for 7 years, we have been able to keep the rents in that building not legally affordable. We never went through any process, but the former owner had kept them low, and we generate just enough to pay off our mortgage. So fast forward 7 years to last spring, the Caldwell Banker House had been on the market for over a year. And I thought, I proposed to Mike that maybe we could do the same thing with that building that we had successfully done at 40 Main Street. Buy it, make it workforce affordable housing, and just pay the expenses by the income that we took in. In the last year, that has morphed into the establishment of the nonprofit. And 2 weeks ago, the Drew Farmhouse, Inc. signed the purchase and sale to acquire that building. Just to tell you how things have progressed since we first approached the Affordable Housing Committee, the town's Affordable Housing Committee last December. We have Jeff Morissette gathered together all the town boards that would be involved with this and town departments. So in April, the Board of Health, through Ray Dick, gave approval for up to 9 bedrooms using the existing septic system. In May, the Zoning Board of Appeals unanimously approved having up to 7 dwelling units in the house and the barn as permitted under the bylaw with variances and permits. There was no opposition from neighbors, and we actually had 6 people come speak in favor, which was very heartwarming. We have gotten unanimous support for our project to put 5 Westford affordable units, well, workforce affordable units in the farmhouse. We also have the unanimous support of the Westford Historic Commission, because just as our goal with 40 Main Street was to keep that iconic general store looking just the way it had when it was built in 1837, we want the Drew Farmhouse to remain exactly as it looks now. It was built as a 2-family house before 1865, and we want that view of that building to always look as it does now, and the Historic Commission supports us on that. We're delighted that in conversations with Habitat for Humanity of Greater Lowell, they are excited to partner with us, and they in fact will do the renovations in the barn, and they will create a 3-bedroom home there that will go to a Habitat eligible family. That's 3 of our bedrooms. We will have 5 in the 6, I'm sorry, in the house, in the farmhouse. And then we also have planning board unanimously approved our site plan, because we're not changing anything on the property except taking out a little blacktop. We're doing the work inside the house, so the planning board had no objection to that. At the request of Sue Thomas, we will provide 2 electric vehicle charging stations on our property, but accessible to the public. And at Matt Salem's request and the Conservation Commission, we will create 4 parking spaces in the front of the building for residents to have access to the Peace Trail, which you can't get to now from the Boston Road end. You have to come in from Drew Farms, and the conservation land that abuts the property at 70 Boston Road. And then sort of icing on the cake, because of all Paul Sterrett's work, the state will be doing improvements on Boston Road in 2025, 2026. So sidewalks will run all the way from the center down to 495, which is one of the goals of affordable housing, is to have access to stores and services without need of a car. So from 70 Boston Road, you'll be able to walk down to the Market Basket and to the shops that are on Route 110. So that's where we are now. And then the question is, how does this get financed? As we did with 40 Boston Road, Mike and I are willing to provide the financial backing for the acquisition of the building. We paid more for the building than we hoped. We thought Coldwell Banker would think it was such a nifty idea that they would give us a break on the price, but they did not. So we have signed a purchase and sale for $1.1 million, slightly less than the asking price, but we can cover that with the mortgage and the construction loans. What is very different than our 40 Main Street project, when we bought that building, we acquired 5 apartments with 5 tenants. What we acquire at 70 Boston Road is 40 real estate corrals, cubicles. The building was completely gutted. The authentic farmhouse was completely gutted in 1994 when Coldwell Banker took over. So there's nothing in there that is, habitable. So that makes it a much costlier project than we did. But the idea of having it be a partnership between the Drew Farmhouse Inc., the town, and Habitat is really a thrilling one. And we've gotten to, as I said, the unanimous support for the funding as well from the Affordable Housing Committee and the Historic Commission. And in July, the Community Preservation Committee itself recommended a $1 million allocation from the Affordable Housing pot. And you're the Finance Committee, I don't have to tell you how CPA works. And $450,000 from the Historical Preservation portion of the Community Preservation Funds. So that's what we're asking for at town meeting on October 16th. And to get that would mean that we could close on the building on October 27th, and construction would begin early in 2025 with everything falling into place, which it will not. We would finish it in that calendar year, but it will probably dip into 2026. So that's our goal and our ambition. The board of directors of the Drew Farmhouse is myself, Cheryl Major, who lives in Westford on Acton Road, and Cherise Lattimore, who lives on Pine Hill Road, but I must confess she crosses the town line and lives in Chelmsford. Both wonderful supporters of the concept. And just finally, to know that the concept of workforce affordable is not a term that we invented. It's something we have been introduced to as we've worked on this for the last 6 months. I think you probably know about the town's affordable housing plan, production plan, approved just a year ago by the selectmen. And in that document, there are affordable housing goals and strategies set forth by the town. And number 4 is housing for workforce, with the goal to create and preserve diverse housing and a broad range of potential home buyers, especially for young adults. And that's what Mike and I are looking at, because that's who we're getting the calls from saying, I hear you have apartments at 40 Main Street. And we say, not enough. So that's what we're hoping to do. We'd love the Finance Committee's support on this. I'm very willing to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ellen. Does anyone have questions? Wow, I'm not seeing anything. You did an excellent job, Ellen. You took care of everything.
It's been really, the support and the enthusiasm has been, I've worked on lots of projects in Westford 56 years, and this may be the tops. So it's been really fun. I might point out to Chris Last, as town manager, it was pointed out to me today, as you look at the wording for this, the name Drew Farmhouse Inc. is not anywhere in the motion, probably because we were just getting established when Jesse Beyer was writing the draft wording. But I think, Chris, if you and the Finance Committee, perhaps this has to come to the select board Tuesday night, but I think it's very appropriate that the town know that this funding is not going to Mike and Ellen Hardy, which I had someone call me about that said, why should we fund 2 individuals? And that's not the funding. It will go to the Drew Farmhouse Inc. And perhaps the motion should reflect that, but I will leave that to you and the select board to discuss that. But it did come to my attention just yesterday.
Okay. Dan, is that something can you just edit that now, or do we need to talk about it?
It's right here on the screen. So I just add the ink on there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dan.
Okay, great.
Okay, Dan,
Ellen will
either-
be at the select board meeting on Tuesday as well, so we can make that differentiation if necessary.
Can I ask a favor to make that Drew Farm Inc. a non-profit organization or a non-profit registered Massachusetts entity or something that sort?
I don't think we need to get that granular in the motion. I think identifying the organization and the fact that in any presentation, I'm sure Ellen's going to make it very clear that it is a nonprofit, and anyone will be able to validate that as well. But I don't think we need to differentiate myself, but that's my 2 cents.
I would agree with that. I don't think we need to, but point taken, Hari. Ellen, can you just talk to, so workforce housing is there some kind of a like income based?
There
Okay.
is absolutely, it's all established by HUD, Christina.
Okay.
And both how much the annual income can be for the people who are applying for this can be anywhere between 80% and 100% of the area median income.
Okay.
The Westford, and I have all those facts and figures for you. They're also in the town's affordable housing project. The last ones that we have and the ones that NEMCOG used for this report were for fiscal year 21. And by the time we're ready, these properties, it will be fiscal year 25. And I've called NEMCOG to say, what figure do we use for the rents, what those will be at this point? But we've used 21 in our calculations.
Okay.
The Affordable Housing Committee asked us to make 100% the top and not have it be as high as someone who's making 120% of the area median income. We're very amenable to that. So in order to be eligible to live at 70 Boston Road in the apartments, 4 will be 1 bedroom, 1 will be 2 bedroom. Your income can be no larger than 100% of the area median income. Obviously, those who need it more, you know, we will accommodate those as well. But 100% is the maximum that the Affordable Housing Committee has asked us to honor, and we will.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Just out of curiosity, Ellen, what is that number these days? I know it's based on 2021, but what is that
Let me
number?
pull that up for you.
I'm sorry.
At this particular moment in not this particular, fiscal year 2021, the 100% area median income was $79,100 for a single person. And because we have 1 bedroom, that's what we're using. For a 2 bedroom, which would be a 2-person household, that area median income at 100% is $90,400 annual income for the 2 people living in that unit. And then Habitat has their own criteria, which we will not get involved in as to how they choose a Habitat eligible family. I believe theirs is lower.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen. It's a good initiative.
Yeah.
And it's a good use of town property, keeping the historicalness and everything. It goes a long way of what you're doing.
Thank you, Hari.
Could I get a motion to recommend Article 7, please?
So
I
moved.
recommend. Okay, Ingrid, go ahead.
So Ingrid moved. Ari, you want to take the second?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Hari?
Aye.
Shinji?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So that passes. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you so much. We'll see you on the 16th, and I'm so grateful to you all. Good
Thank
night.
you. So moving on to Article 8, authorization for the Select Board to petition the General Court for special legislation to amend the town's mean-tested Senior Citizen Property Tax Exemption Act. Dan, you said you're handling this one?
Yeah, this is something that we saw a few years ago. The Slider Committee, Senior Low Income Disabled Tax Relief Committee, they met weekly for about a year to draft some legislation with the intent of providing relief to seniors in town who have been living here for at least 10 years. And the purpose of the legislation was so that those seniors did not pay more than 10% of their income towards their property taxes. So this did pass the legislature in 2021. It came back to town and passed in a ballot. And so we've had 2 years worth of data on how we've run so far. So the first year in FY22, we had, let's see, I'm gonna put this memo up on the screen because that will be a little bit better for looking at this as I'm explaining it. Sorry, give me just a moment. So we'll have all the data here. Okay, so in fiscal year 22, we had 25 applications filed and 13 exemptions were granted. 12 did not pass for whatever reason. They didn't qualify because their house value was too high or their income was too high. But the total exemptions granted was just under 19,000. And as word got out, we got more applications in. We're able to grant 21 of those in FY23, totaling 25,000. So I met with Christine Collins, Will Naser, and Annette Cerullo to kind of go through the original legislation and just make a couple comments and suggestions for the select board on how to sort of amend this. We're originally thinking that we'd have upwards of $200,000 or so in exemptions each year, but we came nowhere near that. I think part of the reason was that the maximum home value is only 80% of the average single family residence in town. So we were going to make a suggestion to the finance committee and select board that we may want to think about upping that to 100% so we get more applicants in. And Will Naser, our assessor, was expecting that we could possibly have 10 to 15 more people that would qualify for this exemption if we do raise that. And then basically the intent was to see how this works. So we put in a 3-year sunset clause. So knowing that we want to take it back to town meeting and then send it back to the legislature for a vote, but this time we want to make it permanent. So we don't want to have the sunset clause in there moving forward. That was a big deal for us. And then we just clarified some language that we made one sentence read a little more clearly. And then we wanted to get rid of some language that was confusing about the value of the single family house as it compares to the circuit breaker program, because the state circuit breaker program house value is 912,000. So it was just redundant. Just some minor changes that didn't really impact anything on the actual legislation. So I'm going to stop there and see if people have questions.
I don't necessarily have a question as much as a comment that I think it's a good practice to increase that limit because let's face it, just because someone's home value is high enough doesn't mean they actually have a liquid asset. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean they have any higher income than anyone else. It's just, I think it's a good idea to expand that program.
Any other questions? I don't see anything. Dan, is there more to that, or?
No, that's basically,
okay.
It's already enacted. So we just want to tweak a few things and send it back. So we're hoping we brought it to October, so we have time for it to go through the legislature and back before next season.
Okay. And then I'm seeing that we also have to vote at the ballot once it comes back.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll take a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Tom?
Aye.
Hari?
Aye.
Ingrid?
Aye.
Shinji?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So that passes unanimously. Okay, Article 9. Authorize the school bus transportation contract for up to 5 years.
Great. So this is for the new contract that's expiring for the school buses. Essentially, mass procurement laws say that if you want to enter into a contract for more than 3 years, you need authorization from town meeting. So we're just seeking that authorization. Typically with a contract like this, or for trash and recycling, you're able to get better prices because the companies can spread their risk and capital over a longer period of time. So this is beneficial for us.
And generally, we don't see this because they do a 3-year contract with extensions, correct? So it doesn't take that 5-year.
Right. So we just want to give them an authorization, and once we approve it once, they have that going forward for forever.
Okay. Any questions? Not seeing any. Could I get a motion to recommend Article 9?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, Tom,
Aye.
Hari,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So that passes unanimously as well. Okay, 8:05 agenda item. Oh, we're early, good. Update from the budget task force. Dan-
Christina, before you give an update, can I just make one clarification? So there may be one article that you may review at your next meeting that may come out of the warrant. So we actually may only have a 9-article warrant. So I just want to make sure in the minutes that you're voting your recommendation on the subject matter of the article rather than the article number, just in case that one article does come out, that you're not bound by that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So our minutes can just reflect the title, Dan, instead of the number. Perfect.
We'll
Okay,
put the whole article in there so it's clear.
great, thank you. So the budget task force update. Dan, I don't know if I have it. Can you bring that? Can you
Yeah.
bring it up? Thank you. So the budget task force has obviously been meeting. We were one of 2 groups at the strategic planning retreat a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And so I'm just going to run through fairly quickly the information that we gave at the retreat. And if anyone has any questions, obviously feel free. So it's kind of the big spoiler on slide 1 here. The major town expenses are estimated to increase 6% beyond the Prop 2.5% increase for expected revenue in FY25 and beyond. So the task force was charged with coming up with some scenarios and doing some analysis to benchmark how we're spending compared to other communities, and to come up with some efficiency and potential revenue to try to close this gap. Next slide. Okay, so here is some benchmarking that we did. You probably are aware that so on kind of on the town side of the departments, there's one list that we usually compare to. The schools kind of have their own list. So this is just it's a superset of those 2 lists, and it just sort of level sets and shows sort of where Westford sits as far as the amount of money that we have available. So you can see that Westford's average single family tax bill is $10,120. Our 2020 income per capita is $72,500. Both of those are pretty close to the median of the 35 towns. And then you've got the average property value. Our land area is much bigger. It's almost double what the other towns are, which definitely plays a role in various, between the DPW maintaining the roads, the school buses are driving longer, there's definitely some challenges there. Our population is right about equal with the median, just slightly higher. The other thing that's a little interesting to note is the percentage of our population that are students in town is actually 19.3%, whereas the median of those 35 towns is 15.3%. So we've got, a little more school-age children than our comparable towns. Next slide. Thank you. And this is our budget so far. This is kind of how it's broken down percentage-wise. This is the FY24 budget. You guys are pretty well, familiar with a lot of this, so I won't go through everything. But what we're trying to show here is, as you know, we break our budget into essentially 4 different buckets. One's the school, one's shared expenses, which are employee benefits and health insurance and debt service. Then we've got the enterprise funds and the fourth one is the municipal services, so like public safety, health department, those kinds of things. What we did here is we took the shared expenses and allocated them to the municipal and the school side. So if you look down at the bottom, you see that the Westford Public Schools is actually supported in total by 68% of Westford's total budget. And then that's compared to the other districts that the schools compare to. So we're a little above the median, which is 62%. And next, thank you. This is a breakdown of how that money is being spent within Westford. So on top, you can see just some of the major sort of town side expenses, public safety, Department of Public Works, library, health department, council on aging. This information is really not anywhere easily accessible. So this was generated by combing through 21 budgets from the other towns and pulling out the information. It was really difficult to do that. In some cases, it was kind of clear cut, and in other cases, it wasn't so clear cut to get sort of an apples to apples comparison. So, for example, in public safety, many other police departments include dispatch in the police department. Ours is broken out. So we tried to break that out so that, again, it would be an apples to apples comparison. But there's other things like building maintenance. Some towns pull that out into its own department. Some assign it to each of the departments like we do. So again, as much as possible, it was made apples to apples. It was also normalized for population. So that's why you'll see the per capita spending in dollars. And then for the schools, it was a little bit easier because the Department of Ed, mandates the reporting. And so that was, we were able to compare our per pupil spending to the other DART districts from the Department of Ed data. If anyone has questions, please just raise your hand as I'm going through this. Tom?
Yeah, just one question that goes back several years, possibly decades at this point. That per pupil spend, does that include the fees that are collected as well, or is that just the budgetary?
I will defer to Ingrid, but I don't believe so because I think it's just general fund.
No.
Nope, I'm wrong. Okay.
No, it's everything. So every grant, every fee, it's pretty much anything that supports the school system.
Okay, because just I know that the fees aren't part of the tax base, that's all. So
Right.
so
No,
something to
for
keep in
people
mind.
spending literally tries to grab anything that supports the school system. So there's a whole, they even allocate a portion of the town expenditures. So that's how they fold in health insurance, and Dan and Jesse provide the schools with that information.
I believe it doesn't include free cash. Is that true, Ingrid?
No, because it
Yeah.
has to be truly an expense for the schools.
Okay.
So
Well,
I mean, free cash was used to support the school, pay for something, but not just sitting there in the bank.
Well, the one difference that we keep pointing out with this is like our Chromebooks are paid out of free cash because they go through the capital process, and so.
But that's capital.
We were under the impression that, but there are other districts that pay for it out of their operating budget.
But it's all put in. So you would report your capital expenditures in your end of year report.
Okay, we'll have to get clarification on that because I thought, all right, thank you. Next, Dan. So this bubble chart shows what the deficit is and how big it's going to be and what types of things are included in there. So each of those bubbles is one item that's increasing, and then you can see the amount that it's increasing. There's health insurance, electricity and gas, and salaries, bus contract. There's some math down in the left there that's showing that the shortfall over FY 25 and 26 is going to be $6 to $8 million. And this is on top of our, normal increase from year to year, or, rough increase. Okay. No questions. So as far as what could happen next, we've looked at different efficiency ideas. There are some things, but there's also impacts that could happen if we don't close the gap. What the budget task force is going to be doing, I'm not going to read every single one of these. I think you guys are probably somewhat familiar with, what could happen and not, but if you have questions, please stop me. We'll go to the last slide, Dan. So the budget task force is going to have a final presentation. I think that's actually going to be in like mid-October now. That was the meeting that I was asking you guys about on October 18th or 19th. So it's going to be that week. The budget task force will present to the finance committee, the select board, and the school committee, and go from there. I think that's about it there. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Okay. Not seeing anything. All right. We're still meeting, we're still working on the report, and that'll be out, like I said, for that meeting in mid-October. So let's go on to our 8:15 agenda item, which is reviewing our proposed FY 25 budget policy direction. And this was in the packet, so everyone should have been able to review it. Are there any questions or comments?
General policy didn't change for a very long time, right? It's and I see most of us are happy with the way town is functioning. Well, I wouldn't see a reason to just make any changes to it right now.
So just to point out, the one change we did suggest is, I think in the 6th or 7th bullet point down, talking about using and taking in consideration the recommendations for the budget task force, and just denoting, I think Dan was just trying to highlight that fiscal 25 is going to be extraordinarily challenging and how we overcome that. And then working with the joint chairs of school committee, select board, and finance committee to run through those shortfalls and how we work as a team to get through that.
Yeah, I think that was smart to add that, especially given what's going on. Tom?
I just wonder with the shortfalls that we're facing, is this and I know everyone puts out the budget requests that they feel they really need, but at this point, does it make sense to ask the departments to start putting together level funded, level services budgets and what those start to look like, just so that everyone's thinking about it, rather than even us as finance committee or anyone saying, oh, well, we can't do this increase for this department. Let the department start taking some of that and tell us what it would be if they were to face a level fund.
I can take that, Christina, if you wish.
Sure.
So the department heads are very well apprised of the budget challenges. We've talked to them in the past 5 department head meetings of what's going on and what this means, have pointed them to watch the budget task force meetings, have talked about the 6% and their ideas to cut costs. We have already had almost all of our budget meetings with the department heads on their submitted fiscal 25 budget, and some of them have taken into account some suggested cuts. Others have just suggested their budget as they would in a traditional year. And they're all well aware that we may be asking for a secondary budget with cuts that would be suggested by myself with consultation with Dan and the finance committee and the select board, and then ultimately go to town meeting with that. So the department heads their wheels are spinning. You know, they know that this is coming and they're well prepared. It's just the timing that we would ask that of them.
Okay, thank you. I know many of the department heads, and I know that they are conscientious, but just putting it out there as well. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. So this looks good. Thanks for bringing it to us. And let's go on to review the draft timeline for the FY25 budget process. I think that if everyone got a chance to take a look at it, the timeline looked, you know, pretty consistent to what we've had in past years. A few dates to note. October 10th, we're being asked to meet at the select board. There's at least one article, Dan, that's going to be coming for a special town meeting. Is that?
It's the capital article, which we didn't have all the quotes in yet. We're still waiting on one for the Blanchard rooftop units for the new roof.
Okay. So if everyone could just kind of pencil in October 10th so we can take a vote at that meeting. October 16th is obviously special town meeting. And the next one of note is December 12th, which is going to be the town manager's budget presentation. And I think these work out pretty well.
Then we're into the budget hearing starting on January 11th. It's every Thursday for 4 weeks. It mimics the schedule that we had last year.
Was last year my only hesitation, and I don't know if we can shift this a week, but having questions due January 3rd always feels so rushed because of, you know, holidays and everything, but I don't know if we have an extra week in there to push things.
The other way to deal with that would be shifting around who might be on that first week. You know, the only one that I see on there that like for that first week that could be higher questions, just because of the bills hitting the street a couple weeks ago with the rate increase, is water. But other than that, you know, that would be the only other way to deal with early questions, is if it were kind of I don't want to say anyone's going to slide through unscathed, but you know, the easier budgets that don't generally come up with many questions.
True. Does anyone else have an issue with January 3rd? I mean, we could just leave it alone as well.
But we could possibly add a day or two onto that, as long as we have an extra day or two to answer it and before we send them back. So it might just be a little truncated timeline, but we can work with that. That date's not good for everyone.
I think that would be a good idea.
So we'll work on that.
Okay.
In the schools, but the schools typically, there's a lot more questions for them historically, so it takes a lot longer for them to answer. They might come in waves, but I'm sure Jenny and her team will do all they can to get as many answered in a timely manner, and then anything else that comes after, we can always add to the list.
That sounds
And
good.
we usually revisit the schools at least once or twice anyway. So even if they can't get all the questions, if they just promise to be working on them, I think that would be good.
Yeah, I think and personally, I think I'm going to plan on trying to review and do things before the holidays maybe and get my questions done earlier. We'll see if that works. Okay, anyone else have anything on this? Any questions? Okay. Looks good. Why don't we go on to the FY23 financial reports and the closeout.
Here, I'm just bringing up the report really quick. So at the end of August, we always send out basically, I should share my screen as well so you can see this. So this report's a little bit small, but I'm gonna try to zoom in as much as possible here. We send out basically how we did in the previous fiscal year. So this is every departmental budget listed here, and basically has the appropriated budget, any transfers or supplemental articles into it, and what was expended year to date, and any amounts that were closed out at the end of the fiscal year. You know, a lot of these are typical. We have some, I don't know how much you want me to go into this, Christina, just skip around a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we have some big closeouts, like the Finance Committee Reserve Fund. We tend to be a little careful with that, and especially since we have budget transfers at the end of the year, we didn't use all that, so we closed out 92,000. And this all goes back to free cash at the end of the year, so it's a good thing to close out money. Any balances you see with personal services means we had some vacancies throughout the year, so like in assessors that occurred. See here, look at that big ticket items. You know, overall, the town administration, the general government closed out 438,000. Most of that was through the reserve fund and the comp reserve. Public safety, we had some large closeouts in police. We do have a lot of turnover there. A little bit from public safety telecommunications, because it's very hard to hire dispatchers these days. And overall, it's about 367,000 for public safety. Tom, I'll let you jump in.
What was the, I'm just curious about the expense line on, I think it was expense on assessors. Was a fairly large number, and I'm just curious.
Assessors. Yep, so Will has 5 contracted services. So Will Nazer is our new assessor, and he's been trying to do more of the work in-house. So we do have a 3-year contract with Patriot Properties, who performs valuations for our personal property, but he did not spend all of the contracted services this year. So you know, trying to save money as much as possible.
Excellent, thank you. I mean, that's the type of things that we're going to be looking for, I think, across the board. So thank you.
And he's planning to bring more in-house after the contract expires as well. Going forward, the schools, they did not close out any money. They put money into their special education reserve fund, knowing that we had a 14% increase from not DESE, it's OSD, right, Ingrid? On the special education tuitions that are coming, and that's an estimated additional $900,000 expense this year, which they're going to use a combination of the reserve fund and other one-time funds to cover it for now. But this is one of the budget challenges that's impacting the projection for 25 and 26. And then highway, we had some major turnover as well. The state was hiring a lot of CDL drivers, and they poached quite a few from us back in the fall. Cemetery, we had a vacancy. A lot of vacancies here and there. For the COA, we actually had some closeout from the senior work program. We didn't have enough applicants to fill all the spots, so there's a closeout there. Veteran services is always highly up and down. It depends who's on our rolls at the time seeking services. And in FY23, there was only 4 people consistently taking benefits. Of course, library, we had a vacancy, parks, we had a vacancy, and so on. And debt service, we had some projects that were not done yet. So we just rolled them using short-term notes. Those that were started, some haven't even been started, but whatever we budgeted that we didn't use just closes back to the general fund at the end of the day. And yeah, so that's one of the big things. So with the unclassified, we're not seeing big closeouts anymore because the health insurance is in the trust and it's being transferred directly in there, which we did transfer all that money that was budgeted last year into the trust. Then of course we have our enterprises, which the money stays with the enterprise. Wherever they close out goes back into their retained earnings. So water is usually highly variable. They close out some money, their entire reserve fund. So they put 965,000 back to their reserves. Recreation, we're very frugal with the spending. Michelle's done a great job there. We actually didn't run the middle school program because it was losing a lot of money after COVID. And so we didn't hire some positions, which closed money back to there.
Hey, Dan,
Yes.
do you happen to know what the recreation retained earnings balance is?
It's around 500,000,
Okay,
but I can get you the exact number.
thanks.
And then just going through the rest of this, we have ambulance and stormwater here. And again, ambulance, they use their money to fill a lot of their shifts. We were down quite a few firefighters this year through different parts of the year. And stormwater, we still have not hired that engineer. We're still looking for the right candidate to do so. And then any expenses or debt that we haven't permanently bonded just closes out back to stormwater for future use.
Dan, could you also give us the balances on the ambulance and stormwater enterprise too?
Yep, I can send you basically what was certified from the state, the free cash and the 4 enterprises.
Okay,
I'll send that
thank
out
you.
to the committee. Yeah. All right, there's 2 more shorter documents here that I'm going to share quickly just so you see those. The first one, switching screens on me, is basically the state aid. I want to show you how we did this year. So the chapter 70, we got exactly what the state said we were going to get. And the charter tuition assessment reimbursement varies based on number of students. There, you're gonna see a deficit here. So veterans benefits, we get reimbursed 80% of benefits paid out. We actually paid out less than expected from the states when we got reimbursed what we actually paid out. And then the exemptions here, this was a timing issue. Will, our assessor, did file the applications on time in April, but the state took 4 months to actually get the money in. So we got the reimbursement for the exemptions back in August. So, but we did get it, which is the important part. And then, of course, we're charged for services too. They deduct this right out of our state aid payments. So we pay for regional services such as mosquito control, air pollution, transit. But the biggest ones that are highly variable are the school choice sending tuition when we send kids out of district, and the charter school sending tuition. So happily, they were a lot lower than what the state was predicting. So we were able to close out about $80,000 from the assessments, which is great. That goes right into free cash. Then one more sheet and I'll be done. All right. Here we have the local revenue, which this one's always very interesting to look at. It's, you know, we have so many categories of local revenue, even though it only adds up to about 7% of our operating budget. But motor vehicle excise, we did see an increase in that. As the population grows, if we get new growth, we should continue to see an increase to the excise. Hotel, motel excise, this is back to pre-COVID levels, which is fantastic. This and the meals tax really took a hit during those pandemic years, but they're both doing very well. You know, other ones here, penalties and interest and taxes, this varies a lot from year to year. Sometimes we have deferrals that are paid off all at once, which we had some very large transactions like that. So in a typical year, we're looking at 200,000, but if we get more, that's great. It just adds to our free cash balance at year end. Fees took a little hit this year. Part of that was the recycling money that we were receiving. In FY 22, we were actually getting a check from Waste Management based on the value of our recyclables, and that went 180 degrees in the other direction. Other things here, licenses and permits did very well. We had a great year for building, and people are pulling permits. So we had about 330,000 in excess of what we budgeted, which is great. And yeah, just some other investment income. That's the big one this year. So in FY 22, we received 47,000 in general fund investment income. That's basically on like our, our payables accounts and our checking accounts and things like that. That went up 866% as interest rates rose. So we brought in 454,000. It's still tracking pretty high. So it's all because the Fed's raised interest rates, I think 8 or 9 times in the past 2 years. And then we just have some other miscellaneous non-recurring money that comes in. We don't budget for this, but whatever comes in, just close out the free cash at the end of the year. So revenue actually exceeded our budget by about 1.7 million, which is outstanding, which is why we have such a healthy free cash balance going into the year, 5.8 million. So I'll pause there for any questions. Anybody has any?
Dan, the miscellaneous recurring,
Yeah.
what kind of stuff is in there?
So that was the state money, the MSBA money for the Stony Brook and Miller schools. That's the biggest portion of it. That's going away next year because we paid off the debt.
Okay.
But the other things on there were the Neshoba Tech resource officer, and then we get money in from a Medicaid supplemental program that we apply for because people who take our ambulance and are on Medicare, they don't pay the full amount. So there's a program out there that helps us to supplement that. So
Okay.
those are the major things out there.
Thanks.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing any? I'll hide this.
So you said our free cash balance was like about 5.8 million?
5.8 million, yep. As opposed to 6.2 the year before.
Not bad. Okay, if nobody has any questions, we'll move on. Okay, approval of minutes. Everyone have a chance to look at those 2 sets of minutes? I was not at the May 12th one, so I'm gonna have to abstain, which is that gonna cause us a problem? We won't have a quorum, no?
No, it's okay. You can
Okay.
abstain, but you can still approve them.
Okay. Just because of that, let's do them separately. Can I get a motion to approve the May 12th minutes unless there's comments or anything on them?
I move to approve the minutes for May 12th.
No second.
Thanks. All in favor? Shinji?
He was not there, right?
He was
Yeah, I
not-
was not there.
So you can abstain as well.
Abstain.
Hari,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and I'll abstain as well. Okay, May 23rd meeting minutes. Any discussion or comments? Can I get a motion to approve those?
I move to approve May 23rd minutes.
No second.
Thanks.
Okay, on May 23rd, can you change my last name just above the adjournment paragraph?
I will do that. Thanks, Ari.
Yeah, it's everywhere. That's so okay.
So approval with the edit of Hari's last name. All in favor, Shinji, you can abstain. Hari,
Aye.
Ingrid,
I'll abstain. I wasn't there.
Tom,
Aye.
and I'm an I. So those are approved. Okay, Finance Committee book assignments. Yippee. Anyone have a, burning desire to do one section or another? Do we want to stay with the same things? Shinji needs something to do, so we're gonna get him a section. Let's see, where's Jake? So culture and recreation and rec enterprise are definitely gonna be open.
So I'm doing CPC, right? Is it same as culture and recreation, or that's more like a
It's different, yeah.
community preservation board? Okay.
Christina, with so many people being off the meeting tonight, did you get an indication from anybody, or can this be pushed off to a future meeting, or
I
do you
can-
need that tonight?
I don't think we need it tonight. Yeah, let's just push it off. But if everyone could just kind of think about it. We will need somebody definitely for culture and recreation and rec enterprise. Okay, I think the next one with the committee liaisons, let me ask this. Anybody who's got a liaison position, do you want to continue in that position? I will, at least on mine.
I will say that have not been keeping on top of permanent town building committee, in part because of other commitments right now.
Okay.
But I can certainly try to redouble my efforts on that if no one else wants to take it.
Okay, I think I'm gonna move this to another meeting as well, but because we're gonna need somebody for clean energy. Hari, do you want to stay on community preservation?
So I'm not really doing much on the CPC.
Okay,
So if it's make more worthwhile for me to switch to clean energy, I can. Plus MBTA will have a finite end by end of this year.
okay,
So I mean, we're doing a lot right now, but it will be done by end of this year. So that would be, well. So clean energy, do you know when they meet?
I do not.
They generally meet on Wednesdays. I
Okay.
know they met last night, so I think it's the third Wednesday of the month, and they are having a special meeting on the 4th, I believe. But it's generally Wednesday.
Is it after work hours or during work hours? That's more important for me than.
Sure, it's usually 7 or 7:30 p.m. virtually.
I can meet that. Okay, it works for me if nobody else wants to pick that, Christina.
Okay,
It's a switch from CPC to clean energy as opposed to add.
okay. Let's do that. And then you've got MBTA, and Beth had said that she wasn't really keeping up with the school committee, so if somebody would like to take that. Okay, why don't we think about the rest of the positions then, and we'll figure it out at our next meeting. Okay, on to our next agenda item, which is the election of finance committee officers. I did speak with Tom and Dennis, and they would both like to continue as vice chair and clerk, and I would like to, continue as chair if people are okay with that. But at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to Dan to do the actual, official stuff.
Great. Okay, so I'm looking for a nomination to keep Christina as chair.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Thank you, Shinji. All right, and all those in favor, Hari,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Shinji,
Aye.
Ingrid,
Aye.
and Christina.
Aye.
Perfect. All right, I'm looking for a nomination for Tom to be vice chair.
Christina, why don't you nominate the other two? Easier.
Oh, Christina, you want to nominate that too? Since
Sure.
Great. There you go.
And I second the nomination of Tom for clerk, Tom for vice chair, and Dennis for clerk, if we're doing the same together.
Oh, am I calling this? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I thought Ari wanted to call the last
Oh.
device.
I thought I was just making the motion. Okay, all in favor, Shinji,
Aye.
Hari,
Aye.
Ingrid, and Tom,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Okay,
Just a nomination for Dennis as clerk.
That was.
It was done in the same
Is that
motion.
done? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I think my computer cut out for a sec.
yeah, if we did both. Well, thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. Our future meetings, we went over during the timeline, but let's see, October 10th at the select board, October 16th, special town meeting, and then the next one, December 12th for the budget presentation. And I think that's it. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Wave it out.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Right.